Hello, welcome to our show. And in this series of Delhi Sultanate, we are discussing about one of the name in Delhi Sultanate, the Emperor Muhammad bin Tughlaq. And to discuss this important emperor, we have one of the prestigious historian from India, Mrs. Meeta Joshi. So before we start discussing about Muhammad bin Tughlaq, let's welcome her.
Namaskar, Kanchan. I'm fine. How are you?
I'm perfectly fine, and as we know that today in this series of Delhi Sultanate, we are discussing about Muhammad bin Tughlaq. So, first of all, I would like to ask you why it is so important to know about this king.
See, Muhammad bin Tughlaq is one of a very strange characters which happened to be there in Indian medieval history. He was a very intelligent man because if you see his educational background, he was highly educated. He knew many languages like Arabic, Persian, Sanskrit, and apart from this, many other subjects like astronomy and anything related with medicine. So he was a very well-read man. But the problem was that maybe he was born in a wrong time because all the decisions which he took in his tenure happened to be a big failures. All his experiments, because he is known for his experiments, so they were all very big failures, and then those experiments were also the reason for the downfall of the Tughlaq dynasty and consequently the Delhi Sultanate.
So, by any chances, want to clarify that Muhammad bin Tughlaq in any way related to Alauddin Khilji?
No. He was the eldest son of Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq, who was the founder of Tughlaq dynasty. There is no connection with Alauddin Khilji.
Well, I would like to know what are those mistakes which Muhammad bin Tughlaq done during his tenure, and what is the impact of those mistakes which he committed during his reign?
Okay. See, as I told you, he is known for his experiments, which he did when he was the Sultan of Delhi. He came to the throne in 1325 AD after the death of his father, Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq. And as soon as he came to the throne, he started experimenting. He started taking some decisions which were not very good for the Sultanate. The very first thing he did was taxation in Doab. Doab was a fertile region. Doab means the confluence of two rivers, and that area is very fertile. So obviously, when the area is fertile, the agricultural produce is, very high. But what happened at the time when Muhammad bin Tughlaq he ascended the throne, there was a famine, and the farmers or the peasants were unable to pay the taxes which were already existing. But what Muhammad bin Tughlaq did was he increased the taxes. Okay. And when he did that, the peasants were already suffering because there were no rains and the crop was very less. So they turned out to be rebels. They started doing little, civil outbreaks in the empire. And when then he realized his mistake, he said, okay, I'm sorry. And then he set up a new department for agriculture. which was known as Amir-e-Koi, and he appointed mukaddams in that who would look into the problems of the peasants and the farmers. But then his very first scheme was a total disaster because the common public, they started disliking him. This was the first one. The second was he transferred his capital from Delhi to Daulatabad in 1327 AD. Daulatabad is the modern Devgiri down south. And why he did this? Because when Alauddin Khilji was there of Khilji dynasty, Alauddin Khilji was the first ruler to focus in South India. So now Muhammad bin Tughlaq was also very eager to, expand his dominions, and he decided that he would shift to Daulatabad. And he gave orders to his ministry and nobles that each and every one should shift to Daulatabad. So in that course, a very good road was laid from Delhi to Daulatabad. Shady trees were planted on the way, lodges were constructed. So it was a very big expenditure. And people who walked, because that time you never had cars or any other modes of transport. The only mode of transport were either horses or carts. So many people had to walk on feet, and because the ministers and nobles were aged, so many of them died on the way. Okay, and then he reached Daulatabad. Now from Daulatabad to control the things at Delhi and North India was difficult because there was no means of communication. So then suddenly he decided, okay, I will go back. And he ordered again all his ministers, nobles, and people to shift back to Delhi. So can you imagine? It was such a big mistake, rather a blunder, because when he transferred the capital, he got new buildings constructed in Daulatabad to set up his palace, to set up his court, to the places where his nobles and ministers would reside. And then again, he orders them to go back to Delhi. So, number one, loss of revenue. Number two, loss of manpower, because many people died in this process. This was his second mistake. And the third mistake was he wanted to, increase the revenue. I don't know what was in his mind. So he introduced a token currency in 1338. And what was this token currency? Instead of gold and silver coins, coins of brass and copper were issued. Okay. So now what happened? The historians have written, like Ziauddin Burni and one of the Moroccan traveler who happened to visit his court, Ibn Battuta, they have written that every house in Delhi turned into a mint. Har ghar taksal ban gaya, because everyone started minting their own coins. And what happened when there was surplus of coins? Again, he has to withdraw that scheme back. So these experiments were a big toll on the treasury of the Delhi Sultanate. So whatever Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq has amassed, the wealth, he has just wasted it, on these petty experiments. Now, many historians have different views. Some say that he was a wise fool. Some say that he was born, he was born in a wrong time because he was very intelligent, a very intellectual person, but whatever he tried to do somehow was not clicking and people were not understanding his ideas that time. But whatever it may be, it was a big mistake. And all these mistakes led to the downfall of the Tughlaq dynasty. And as I said, consequently, the Delhi Sultanate, because after Tughlaqs, the Lodi dynasty was there, which was for a very short period of time. And then in 1526 AD, Babur came and had a big battle with Ibrahim Lodi, the first battle of Panipat, and the Mughal rule was established. So we can say that, his experiments can be the foundation of fall of the entire Delhi Sultanate.
Well, I can really visualize what kind of chaos he must have created at that point of time. Now, I would like to ask you that what is his relation with Kakitiya dynasty? Because it is said that he has done a lot of campaign against them. So, did he succeed, or what is the impact?
He did succeeded at times because Pratap Rudradeva was there in Warangal, and he had many expeditions down south that time. And after those expeditions, when he saw the wealth of the Deccan, then only he was interested to shift his capital from Delhi to Daulatabad. So he had not very cordial relationships with them, because when he went to invade those places, he made many prisoners, and two of the prisoners were Hariyar and Bukka, who were later the founders of Vijayanagar Empire. So they were not, in very good strings or good relations. But yes, the expeditions of Warangal and Kakatiya dynasty did impact again his rule, because it was huge loss of treasury again. These expeditions, lot of money and manpower is involved in that.
Well, I can safely say that when Ghiyasuddin Bey Tughlaq came on the throne of Delhi Sultanate must be a substantially rich city. But over the period of time, due to his mistake, as we have discussed, that the treasury and everything it's an impact on that. Now, I would like to ask you, there must have been a proper administration or a proper ministry who was already established. So, would you like to throw some light on kind of administrative agencies or people at that point of time?
See, the administration was same as it was carried out by Alauddin Khilji, because that model everyone copied, even the Mughals they copied. So administration was as per what happened in the Khilji times, okay. But one thing is there, that he was a good commander. I will not say he was a very good administrator because of these experiments and decisions which he took, but he was a good commander, and he really had a hold in his army. Okay, administration was the same. Only one change he did, that he opened a new department for agriculture after the taxation of Doab, and then he appointed some mukaddams in that. Okay, that was one addition, but rest of the things were as it is, which happened way back in Alauddin Khilji's times.
See, as we have discussed that the impact of Muhammad bin Tughlaq was not that great, but still we study him, we want to know about him. So, what what is the necessity to really know about the mistakes of Muhammad bin Tughlaq when we are talking in the context of Indian history?
See, history, it is said that history repeats itself, okay? And the mistakes which he committed, the experiments or policies which he introduced were, as I said, were the main reason for the downfall of the Tughlaq dynasty. At one point of time, the Tughlaqs looked very, very powerful because after him, Firoz Shah Tughlaq, he was a great builder because he built Firozabad, he built many forts, palaces, buildings, and he did a lot of work in, to improve the agriculture by building new dams, canals. So that way, the Tughlaq rule looked very, very good at one point of time, but only because of his, these blunders which he committed, there was a downfall. So, why we study history, Kanchan? Because we learn from our past mistakes. As everyone knows, that history is a study of the past events. And with those events, what have happened, we should take a lesson from them. So that's why studying him is important.
So, ma'am, we were discussing about Muhammad bin Tughlaq, and I would like to ask you how you will rate this king when we are in combination of other Delhi Sultanate emperors.
See, as I told you, he was a very good commander. Okay. He was a learned person individually. He was a kind hearted person because, according to Ibn Battuta, according to Ziauddin Barni, they have said that he was a very kind hearted man and he helped people. He did lot of charity. But when you see him as a king, so that because of his these policies or experiments which he implemented, that proves him to be a failure that way. So I can say that he was a very good commander, and he was a very good learned human being because knowing so many languages, he wrote poetry in Persian. He he knew mathematics, astronomy, medicine, many disciplines he was very good at. But when it comes to be a good king, see how you rate a good king. A good king is who takes care of his people, his the subjects in a nice way. So that way he is a failure because he used the treasury money in those experiments which were a disaster later on.
So, it was so wonderful to talk to you, but lastly, I just want to ask you, uh, what is the learning? Was there any learning for other kings after Muhammad bin Tughlaq by watching or rating this king and what kind of mistakes he has done? So, anybody try to correct it or want to learn from his mistakes?
See, this is the problem, Kanchan, that no one learns from the past mistakes and they do those mistakes again and again. So, see, Firoz, after him, Firoz Shah Tughlaq was a very different personality that way. And after Tughlaq's, the Sayyids and then the Lodhis. So, no one really tried to, rectify those mistakes and to learn something out of it. Because, see, that's why again and again, these things they occur in history time and again because no one takes a lesson, no one learns anything out of it, and then we blame our fate or something. That is the nature of mankind.
Well, ma'am, it was so lovely to talk to you and know once again about Muhammad bin Tughlaq and what kind of king he was and what are the blunders he has done. So we'll be meeting again, ma'am, and listen about and discuss about any other important king from Delhi Sultanate. Till then, bye bye, and you take care.
Thank you, Kanch.